All right, everybody. Ready to jump into something kind of fun today. We're talking crypto passive income. And, that idea of money kind of just working for you in the background while you're off doing your thing.
Always nice.
Right. Exactly. And that's where this whole spark swap thing comes in. It's got that kind of buzz. Like maybe this is the ticket to finally unlocking that financial freedom everyone's after. Daily deposits, crazy high returns, enough to I don't know, maybe actually book that dream vacation you've been putting off. Who doesn't love that idea, right?
She's definitely got that appeal.
Hey, so the guy who's claiming he's cracked the code here, at least with this SparkSwap system, is this entrepreneur, Andrew Locke. And he's put together this whole SparkSwap success system thing, right? And he makes it sound pretty enticing, I'm not going to lie. Easy to set up, consistent profits, basically foolproof. Anyone can do it, that kind of stuff. But, and I think this is where that skeptical side of our brains kicks in, especially with crypto. Sometimes when it sounds way too good to be true.
Yeah, you got to wonder.
Right. Is this really legit, or are we going to end up with a digital pie in the face? So that's what we're here to figure out today. We're going to unpack Andrew's claims, look at how SparkSwap actually works, and hopefully by the end of this, you'll know whether it's even worth exploring further, or if it's one to just kind of let fade into the background noise of the crypto world. And to help us navigate this whole world of DeFi and yield farming and all that, we've got our expert here who I think is just as curious as I am to see what's really going on behind the scenes. What were your first impressions of Andrew's system? Did anything jump out at you right away?
Well, you're right. Andrew's definitely tapped into something that I think we all want, right? That idea of making money while you sleep or while you're sipping lemonade on a beach somewhere. But here's the thing. The concept of passive income, that's not new, even if the methods we're using to try to achieve it are always changing.
True.
Think about it. Real estate has rental income, stocks have dividends, even building a business online, that can create passive income streams. So it's not like crypto invented this whole idea.
Right.
But you're right to be a little skeptical of those too good to be true vibes. It's like those late night infomercials promising overnight riches with no effort.
Get rich quick.
Exactly. So let's dig into the specifics here. Try to separate the hype from what's actually going on.
Yes. And speaking of hype, Andrew tells this whole story about his own aha moment, right? Apparently, he had this friend, Kevin, who made a killing with Bitcoin early on, which, let's be real, most of us have that story, like the I should have invested when.
Oh, yeah. We've all been there.
Right. So it's relatable, for sure. But how does that tie into SparkSwap?
Well, it's smart storytelling, right? He's trying to connect with everyone who feels like they missed the boat on Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever it was.
It makes sense.
But more importantly, it sets the stage for his big reveal, which is SparkSwap.
Okay.
And he positions this SparkSwap as the way to unlock those same life-changing returns, but this time through what he calls yield farming.
Okay, yield farming, now we're talking. That sounds like something straight out of Star Trek. Break it down for us. What are we actually farming here? And how does the SparkSwap thing even fit in?
All right, so imagine a high-interest savings account, right? But instead of a bank, it's this whole world of decentralized finance DeFi.
Okay.
You're essentially lending out your crypto to earn a return, kind of like how you'd earn interest with a regular bank.
Got it.
SparkSwap is just one platform in this whole DeFi landscape.
Okay.
And it claims to generate those high returns through a specific type of yield farming.
So it's like we're cutting out the middleman, no banks, no institutions, just us and our crypto out there in the digital world doing its thing.
You got it. That's the basic idea.
Okay, this is starting to make a little more sense now. But how is SparkSwap different or better than all the other platforms out there doing basically the same thing?
That's where things get really interesting. Andrew talks about SparkSwap being built on a more sustainable economic model, and that it's generating its revenue from these transaction fees, unlike some other platforms that rely on what's called unsustainable token issuance.
Sustainable economics. Now, those are words you love to hear when it comes to investing, but is that enough to justify the kind of returns Andrew's claiming here? Because when he gets into that 3 ways to profit section of his presentation, things get, well, really interesting. We're talking potentially earning up to 100% APR, seeing those daily deposits hit your account, and even profiting as the value of, your chosen cryptocurrency goes up. He even mentions this bonus sparkler payout that seems kind of too good to be true.
It's a lot to take in.
It really is. It's almost like he's saying, look, if you're not using SparkSwap, you're basically leaving money on the table. But before we get too caught up in all the impressive sounding numbers, I think it's time to inject a little dose of reality into the equation. What are some things, maybe even beyond the shiny promises, that we should be thinking about here?
You're absolutely right. Remember those infomercials we were talking about?
Yeah.
With all those too good to be true claims?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there are a few key questions we got to ask about this spark swap thing before anyone even thinks about jumping in head first.
All right, so let's get into those questions. Try to separate the spark swap signal from the noise, as they say. First up, how are they actually generating those sky-high returns? And more importantly, is it even sustainable? Because, I mean, past performance isn't always a guarantee of future success, right? Especially in the world of crypto, where things can change like that.
You're telling me, hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
When you're evaluating something like spark swap, you have to understand how it actually works, the mechanics of it. What are the risks? Because there's no such thing as a free lunch, even in the digital world, right?
Okay, so let's unpack those risks a bit. We've heard the promises, the good stuff, but what are some of the potential downsides, the red flags maybe, that people should be aware of?
One of the first things that jumps out is just the nature of crypto itself.
Yeah.
It's volatile. Andrew talks about all the potential gains if crypto prices rise, which, don't get me wrong, is a big if. But he kind of glosses over the flip side, the very real risk that you could lose money if the market takes a downturn.
Right. It's a two-way street. It's like riding a roller coaster.
Yeah.
The highs can be exhilarating, but man, those drops can be brutal. So how do you even begin to navigate that risk, especially with something like SparkSwap that seems so connected to how crypto is doing overall?
That's where due diligence comes in. And I'm not talking about just doing a quick Google search and calling it a day. We need to go deeper than that.
Okay.
We need to understand the specific risks tied to SparkSwap and to yield farming in general.
Got it.
And to do that, we need to understand the different flavors of yield farming, how they actually generate those returns.
Flavors of yield farming, huh? This is where it gets a little more technical, right?
It's true. Getting into the nitty-gritty of how yield farming actually works. It can feel a bit like, going down the rabbit hole.
A little bit.
But stick with me here. It's not as complicated as it might seem at first. So instead of just holding on to your crypto, right, just letting it sit there, imagine you're putting it to work in different DeFi applications. Kind of like, in the regular financial world, you'd put your money into different types of investments.
Okay, so what are these different investments we can make in the yield farming world?
So one that's really popular is called liquidity providing.
Liquidity providing, okay.
Think of it like, supplying ingredients to a bakery.
Okay.
You're providing a pair of cryptocurrencies to a platform.
Got it.
And in exchange, you earn a portion of the fees that are generated from trades that use, the assets you provided.
Interesting. So we're basically facilitating trades and then getting a cut. That makes sense. But I'm guessing there's got to be some kind of downside here.
Right. There's always a trade-off. With this liquidity providing thing, one risk is something called impermanent loss.
Impermanent loss. That sounds a little ominous.
Yeah, it's basically what happens when the value of the cryptocurrencies that you provided, if they fluctuate a lot,
Okay.
you could actually end up with less value than if you had just held onto those assets in the first place.
So it's not just the overall market going up and down we have to worry about, but also the potential to lose out even within a specific yield farming strategy.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to really understand the specifics of any strategy before you just dive in.
Got it.
Another common yield farming method is lending. This one's pretty straightforward. You lend out your crypto through a platform.
Yep.
And borrowers, they pay interest to use your funds.
So it's like being the bank in this decentralized world.
Kind of, yeah. You're lending out money and earning that sweet, sweet interest.
Sounds pretty good to me, but are there any risks specific to this lending approach?
One of the big ones is the possibility of default. Now, these platforms, they usually have ways to try to reduce this risk.
Sure.
But there's always a chance that someone who borrows your money just doesn't pay it back.
Of course.
Especially if the market takes a nosedive. So it's really crucial to look into a platform's security measures, their history, before you trust them with your crypto.
It's wild to think about, really. We're essentially talking about recreating these traditional financial systems, but in this completely digital, decentralized way.
It's pretty mind-blowing when you think about it.
It is. And it sounds like SparkSwap is just one of many players in this whole DeFi space, which is, I'm assuming, growing and changing constantly.
Oh, yeah. It moves fast.
So for someone who's maybe listening to this and thinking, okay, this yield farming thing sounds interesting, I want to check it out, how do they even begin to choose the right platform or the right strategy? It seems overwhelming.
Honestly, This is where independent research is absolutely key.
Okay.
Don't just take someone's word for it or rely on flashy marketing materials.
Right.
Look for unbiased information, from reputable sources that can tell you about the different platforms, how their yield farming actually works, and what the risks are.
So like those educational platforms we've mentioned before, Coinbase Learn, Binance Academy, that kind of stuff.
Exactly. Those are great places to start if you're just trying to wrap your head around the basics.
Okay.
And don't discount those community forums, online communities, dedicated to this stuff.
Makes sense.
Jump into the conversations, ask questions, learn from other people who've already been down this road.
It's like exploring any new and exciting frontier, right?
Totally.
The more you learn, the more you realize you have to learn.
Oh, absolutely.
Speaking of discovering new things, can we talk about something else that Andrew Locke was really pushing in his SparkSwap pitch?
What's that?
The free vacation bonus. Because, come on, who doesn't love a free vacation?
You had me at free vacation.
Right. But I have a feeling there might be a little more to this than meets the eye. It's giving me those late-night infomercial vibes again, but wait, there's more. Sign up now, and you'll also get this amazing set of...
Oh, I know exactly what you mean.
It's like they throw in a bonus to distract you from the actual product they're trying to sell.
Exactly. And that's what we got to watch out for here, right? This vacation offer, it's designed to make us forget about the potential downsides of SparkSwap.
Right. While we're busy picturing ourselves on a beach somewhere, we might miss some crucial details about the investment itself.
Precisely.
Okay, but let's play devil's advocate for a second. Even if there are some hidden costs or blackout dates or whatever, couldn't this vacation still be a good deal? Especially if SparkSwap really does generate the kind of passive income Andrew claims it does.
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
Right? And it brings us back to, doing your own research, managing your expectations. Let's just say, hypothetically, that SparkSwap is everything Andrew says it is. It's revolutionary. It's going to make you rich, all that.
Okay.
Wouldn't it make more sense to invest in SparkSwap, see those profits coming in,
Yeah.
and then book yourself an even more incredible vacation on your own terms?
You're right. If it's as lucrative as he says, we could probably afford to go on vacation like 10 times over without needing some kind of bonus scheme.
Exactly. Don't let the allure of a free vacation cloud your judgment. Focus on the bigger picture, the potential risks and rewards of SparkSwap itself.
So before we even think about packing our bags, we need to unpack SparkSwap itself, figure out how yield farming works, and decide if it even fits into our own financial goals and risk tolerance. Right?
Absolutely. It's like planning any trip. You don't just show up at the airport with no idea where you're going, right?
Exactly. And speaking of planning, I think we need to talk about another really important part of investing, especially in a market as, let's face it, volatile as crypto.
It's that.
Managing our emotions.
Yeah.
Because let's be real, investing can feel like an emotional roller coaster.
Oh, tell me about it.
It's exciting, it's terrifying, and sometimes it feels impossible to think straight when there's so much on the line.
It's true. It can get overwhelming.
So how do we even begin to approach this whole thing with a clear head?
You've got to develop that emotional detachment. And I don't mean become some kind of robot, right? But you need to be able to recognize those emotional triggers. That fear, that greed, that fear of missing out, FOMO, as the kids say.
FOMO class.
Those emotions can completely cloud your judgment and lead to some, let's just say, not so great decisions.
It's like that feeling when everyone's talking about a stock or a cryptocurrency, and you just feel this pressure to jump in before you miss out, even if you don't fully understand what's going on.
Happens all the time.
So how do we resist that urge? How do we make more rational decisions when it comes to our money?
It's easier said than done, right?
Yep.
Trying to detach emotionally when it's your money on the line.
Oh, for sure. So what can people actually do? Any practical tips for keeping a cool head when things get a little crazy, which, let's face it, happens in the crypto world?
Absolutely. First and foremost, define your goals.
Okay.
Like, what are you actually trying to achieve with your investments? Is it retirement, down payment on a house, early retirement? Whatever it is, you got to know what you're aiming for. Once you have those goals, then you can create a plan and stick to it. Even when the market's doing its whole up and down thing, you got to stay focused on the long game.
So it's like having a financial roadmap to keep you on track.
Exactly. And part of that roadmap, you got to know your risk tolerance.
Right.
How much volatility can you actually handle?
Yeah. How much are you willing to lose potentially in the short term for those hopefully bigger gains down the road?
Exactly. Because some people, they're fine with those big swings. Others, not so much.
Right. It's like choosing between a roller coaster and a carousel, I guess.
Perfect analogy.
Right.
And don't forget about diversification.
Oh, yeah, that old chestnut.
It's not just about crypto either.
Right.
Spread your investments around different asset classes to try to minimize that risk.
Like creating a safety net for your portfolio.
Yeah. Exactly. And this is a big one. Tune out the noise.
Ah, I feel that.
There are so many voices out there, especially in the financial world. Gurus, influencers, all promising you the moon. Be really careful about who you listen to.
Right. Everyone's got an agenda.
And don't be afraid to unplug from that constant news cycle. Focus on your own research, your own goals, your own plan.
It's like trying to have a conversation in a room full of people shouting. Sometimes you just need a little quiet to think clearly.
Exactly.
So much good stuff here today. We've covered so much ground, from the ins and outs of spark swap and yield farming to the importance of due diligence, risk management, even just trusting your gut. And before we wrap up, remember everyone, we are not financial advisors. This is not financial advice.
Definitely not.
Our goal here is to give you the information you need to make your own informed decisions about your money, your investments.
Knowledge is power.
It really is. So before you jump headfirst into the world of crypto and DeFi, which can be exciting, but also super overwhelming, take a breath, do your research, and remember, sometimes the best investments are the ones we choose not to make. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive. We'll be back next week with another topic. Until then, happy investing, everyone.